right, hey everybody. Hey, Jeff here. So we are going to have the privilege today to speak to someone I've never in the past of all of my magazine work ever had the pleasure to speak with, Mr. Lary. You are the voice and the soul behind Trytan. Now, for those of you who, real quick, for those of you who, I don't know why you would be anybody out there who don't know what I mean by Trytan, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. And I'm going to relay this little story. So Trytan, the first album was like, I had some demos back in the day. I guess you all got started, what, around 83, 84 was when you had some demos out, right?
Yep.
Okay. I remember getting some demos in the early Heaven's Metal days advertised. And then you had Celestial Messenger that came out in 87.
Okay.
Now, here, real brief funny story. I just got back into buying vinyl records like 3 years ago, and I found this in a store last year in superb condition. And I swear, I barely got home. It had to be within a couple of weeks that they announced that they were reissuing Silent Tiger. I'm like, great. So I bought the old one. They're probably going to reissue the first one. But anyway, I had it. So yeah, and so they just got this reissued last year. This is the second Trytan album, Silent Tiger. It is on absolute, some of the most beautiful splattered vinyl. Look at that. Anyway. So then, for some reason, Lary decided to leave us for like 30 years because it took him that long to write a new album. and it just came out. Look at that. Blood of Kings. Look at that. So my first question is, what the heck took you so long? Oh, they also reissued Silent Tiger, Celestial Messenger.
There you go.
And I didn't get the Silent Tiger reissue because it was a gold disc, and I already had the reissue of that came out a handful of years ago. But
right on.
So aside from the little resurgence here in 2001 when you popped up, where have you been hiding for 30 years?
Man,
why are you keeping us waiting so long?
Man, what a great question, Jeff. I started, it's a little known fact, but in 92, I pulled a team together and I was going to do a solo record called Dean. Which in the Hebrew, it means to plead a cause. It's not spelled D-E-A-N. I think it's D-E-H-N. And man, I had a really great team together in 92. It was actually, the label had paid for me to go into Sonic Temple to start recording the album. We did 3 songs and actually had Mark Robertson on bass, who was... man, he's been in every band. Altar Boys, Allies, Brighton, The Stand, Under Midnight. And then his last thing was This Train. And then he was the music director for Rich Mullins in a ragamuffin band. But he was playing bass. We're old friends, close friends. I had Scotty Blackman doing drums and Tony Velasquez from Sacred Warrior. Wow. I had a guy by the name of Doc Boyer playing second guitar and Chris Mosier on keyboards. But prior to doing that, starting that album, my wife and I had really felt a call to start planning churches. I was involved with Kerry Chapels forever. I was involved with the Warehouse Church, and the Lord put it on our heart to start planning churches. So that's the long way to say, for 30 plus years, we've been doing church. We've been discipling, counseling people, doing evangelistic outreaches, and we've been planning churches here in the Chicagoland area, and we were involved with one in Texas too. So
I guess we can let you slide. It sounds like that might be a worthy cause to not put out a new album. I mean, since we're talking Christian music here, we have to say that, right? Yeah. So I'm curious, how did this come about then? That's the first question. How did this come about? I have a second lead into that, but so all of a sudden you just had some free time. Did the reissue of Silent Tiger bring back any interest in this, or why now? That's a question. Why now?
Man, there's a guitar instrumental on the new album, Blood of Kings, called The God Storm. And
Right.
it really is, it is a God storm. But I can give you some details on that, Jeff. So and it kind of ties into the church. Early on when I became a Christian, like even before the first Trytan albums, I was involved in ministry. I was involved in Calvary Chapel, worship leading, pastoring, doing youth ministry, all kinds of ministry. And we've always wanted to do to do church and ministry, to go where no church has gone before. And so, you know, then meeting guys like Glenn Kaiser from Res Band and Randy Show from the Warehouse Church, and that whole era that came out. We did production on for Fierce Heart, Rex Carroll's first band, and we Trytan played for Rex. And I just love ministry, especially music ministry that was plowing new territory. So when we kind of locked into the, you know, planning the church, we planted our first church through like 90, 91. And then we had, it grew. And then the Warehouse Church commissioned us. The end of 93, we had started having services on Sundays in 94. And we always wanted the music to be exciting. Well, I came back to Illinois. We planted a church in Texas. I actually got to hang out with Doug a little bit. I lived in north tip of Austin, and went to a church service at the Calvary Chapel in Austin. And Doug was there, and I didn't know it, but we gave each other a big hug, like, dude, what's going on? And we knew each other from Cornerstone and from HM and all the work that he did for years up until then. But then I came back to Illinois, and it was a real shift. You know, there's kind of defining moments in your life where it's like, okay, look, this is a shift. And I came back to Illinois. It's a long story. But the Lord put on a heart to really reach for the new generation and to really get off the menu. So we decided to do a church in 06, 07. We started Bible studies. We had Extreme Church North, Extreme Church South. We're doing Sunday morning and Sunday nights. And we wanted to really focus on young families and millennials. And so everything with the ministry was given a makeover, with the way we dressed, the way we looked, the graphics, the media, and certainly the music. So the main point was the Lord put it on my heart to start doing like a praise meets metal, like we did on Silent Tiger, By My Spirit. We kind of did a metal version of her praise and worship song. And so consistent with that branding and coming out of the Warehouse Church and being around Japuza and Cornerstone, we just started to rewrite like all these songs, whether it's like, How Great Is Our God, and I Am a Friend of God, or Hillsongs, Chris Tomlin, Jesus Culture. And we just started to rewrite those songs, and our song team just loved it. It just hit, and everybody loved it. And we were kind of doing like Dream Theater meets Hillsongs, King Zetz meets Chris Tomlin, and we give these songs these metal rock feel, and it just was so fun and so good. That got my juices flowing. And I'm 60 years old this year, so my wife, she says I'll never retire, but my wife is thinking about some retirement types of things. So I thought, well, Lord, what can I do to generate some passive income and some residual income, and it's like, well, I can speak, I can write, I can teach, I can lead ministry, I can announce, and oh yeah, I can play music. Oh yeah. So it's like this God storm of Stryper's albums. A friend of mine took me to see Stryper about 4 or so years ago, and I'm a big Neal Morse Band fan, so I went to see Neal Morse on the past couple tours, and just writing these songs for Extreme to do in our worship services. My wife and I prayed about it, and we just said, well, let's see what the Lord will do with this music. Let's do another Trytan album. And I just kind of put some feelers out there, not really fleecing the Lord, but I just made some phone calls. I talked to Doug about it, and I talked to like my close crew, like Ray Para and John Thompson, and did a little research, and then the Lord just started opening doors like crazy. And it's been a season of doors, Jeff. The doors that the Lord has opened. I have so much to say about just Blood of Kings and the resurgence of Trytan and the other doors that are opening because of that. But I'm just amazed. But that's the long answer. And how did we get here?
Wow. Well, you've already kind of answered my second question. I thought I was the only one, but obviously I'm not. I am a huge Neal Morse fan. So my next question was, how the heck did you get Eric involved? But you're aware. The funny thing I think about it is, I was telling my wife a minute ago, I said, you know what? Eric's probably not even old enough to know when the first Trytan album came out.
That's what I asked him. Yeah.
But man, I have been a Neal Morse fan since he went solo, since leaving Spock's Beard. I've been on the Neal Morse train, fan club since day one. Got all of these are Neal Morse, fan club CDs. And Eric, has been. He's one of those musicians that I'm a drummer and I do that okay, but Eric makes me sick because he is a phenomenal drummer. He's an absolute phenomenal guitar player. He's a ruler on the keyboards. He can sing like an angel. I hate people with that much talent, don't you? Come on now. But to have him come in here, I'm just like this. When I heard that he was involved, and shoot, then you bring Jim in? Come on. I'm like, this is like an all-star album right here. And yeah, it came out great. I'm just, how did he get Eric to work with him? So that is just great.
So thanks, man. Yeah, I have so many dimensions to that story. But to kind of go back to answer like your main question. So, my John Lennon passed away about 2 years ago. Steve Robinson, the bass player, keyboardist for Trytan. Okay. He passed away, and Scotty Blackman, who was on the first Trytan album, his oldest son and my youngest son are best friends. So we're always in touch with them. Scotty lives in California now, like in Palm Desert, Palm Springs area. I just had lunch with Jim Dobbs, the drummer on the second Trytan album, Silent Tiger, just 2 days ago, right here in the office. And so we're in touch. We're gonna probably do another project together, not Trytan, but another project together. But so when Steve passed away, it was right around the time I was really feeling the pull to get back into music. And so that, I couldn't even ask him if he'd want to pray about being involved, So then I thought, okay. And again, bro, back to this God storm dimension. It truly is. I coined the phrase God storm about 10 years ago with Team Faith and with Extreme, but it really is a total God storm. So I just began to think and pray about, okay, Lord, well, Steve is gone. Jim's here in town, and Scotty was in California, but frankly, I wasn't really feeling a green light there. I'd asked Scotty to pray about it because he was here. His daughter stayed with us, and her son, I want to say 2 summers ago, maybe 3 summers ago. And Scotty and I sat down, and we caught up for a while. And I had asked him, I said, hey, dude, man, I'm thinking about doing another Trytan album. And he was in a metal band touring around. So he's like, you know what, man, I'm so busy. I can't swing it, I'm like, okay, no problem. And then, I just continued to pray. And I kind of made a list of guys that I thought would be awesome. And then when I saw Eric on the Grand Experiment tour, and when they switched it up and he got behind the drums, and I'm like, man, this guy can play drums too. And then he got on the keyboards, and it's like, and wow, can he play keyboards too? So Eric was on my short list with like Ted Kirkpatrick and Steve Whitaker and a couple other guys. And I really wanted Mike Portnoy's my favorite drummer. Well, he used to be. Eric is my favorite drummer now, and I mean that sincerely. So I was just kind of stewing on that, praying, and Neal Morse and Eric did an interview that I caught on a podcast, and he had just done the Tree of Life drums, and he did like a drum cam for that, and I was like, my goodness, this dude is a virtuoso genius, and so I just thought about Eric, and I was thinking about him. Well, then I caught this podcast, and the interviewer asked him, it might have even been you. I can't remember who did the podcast, but they asked Eric, so Eric, you did this Tree of Life thing, and it turned out amazing. You are an amazing drummer. Did you enjoy that? Do you want to do more drums? And he goes, I would love to be involved in a project and just focus on the drums. And I'm like, Lord, there is my cue. And so I just contacted him and asked him. I said, hey, bro, I explained my story. I've been pastoring for 100 years, and I want to get back in the music biz. I feel a pull from God. I want to win souls. I want to stir artists to share Christ and be bold. And I said, would you pray about playing drums on this thing? And he said yes. And then I was in the process of him getting back to me. I was thinking, well, I know getting the drums is the first thing that you do when you make an album. So, and I know he's got a studio down there. So I know he plays keyboards really well too. So I had asked him, bro, would you? So he said, yeah, man, I'm in. I said, okay, would you not only play drums, but would you also play all the keyboards? He goes, yes. I said, one more question. Do all the drums, do all the keyboards, and would you produce it with me? He's like, check, 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 done. And, I met Eric. The first session was December of 2018. 2018? Yes, 2018. And I went down there and we built the song map for the first track on there, The Descender. And that was the only track that we were in the same room where I played the guitar parts and he played the drums.
Oh, wow.
Everything else was, I went in and did my parts in sessions after that. And then he did a big session did all the rest of the drum tracks, but we wound up keeping. But I remember Jeff being in his drum room with the Fractal. Actually, I didn't even have a Fractal Audio AX8 at the time. I used the Eric's, and we mapped the song out, at the console, and then the next day he brought his iPad in next to the drums he remoted all the drums in, and he said, all right, so how's that first hook go? It was all mapped out on Pro Tools, and I played the hook for him. He goes, okay, let's play it together now. And we had the headphones on, and I'm standing across from him. I'm standing here looking at Eric Gillette in his drum room, playing the parts, headphones on. And I start the riff, the opening riff of Descender. He comes in, and my face, I was smiling so big, I thought my face was going to crack because it sounded like Mike Portnoy. The sounds and the performance. I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, dude, are you okay? And I couldn't play. I was smiling and laughing so big. I said, dude, I just can't believe how amazing this sounds. It's like, dude, you're like Portnoy. He goes, well, he is my favorite drummer, so I'm not surprised, But yeah, I just basically, with Eric and Jim, I just asked them and, said, pray about it. I don't want to strive. I don't want to try to make something happen that's not the Lord. And, Eric and I'm not sure what his account of it would be, but I spent 4 different sessions down there, and EKG Studios is just a magic place. It's like a studio resort. And, I call him the Maestro Unicorn, because not only can the guy play every instrument like prolifically, and he can sing as good or better than anybody out there, maybe with the exception of John Elefante. But he is a producer and an engineer. Most artists can't produce themselves, and most producers aren't really that gifted of art. There's some rare exceptions like John Elefante, Mark Robertson, Eric Gillette. But he can engineer, produce, and play everything that you need. And it was just the lightning strikes and the synergy. Him and I are going to be starting another album next month, and we've had some pre-phone meetings on it. And we're talking about timelines. He was like, man, dude, me and you. He's like, you and me, we're locked in, man. We got a great system, so it won't take as long to do the albums because we know each other so well. And I've got a studio here now too, where we can build the Pro Tool maps, and then I'll probably do the guitar rust down there. He'll do the drums, and then I'll just fly my parts down to him, and then we'll go down and probably do vocals and some final overdubs and then mix it down together. So we got a really cool system going. But same thing happened with Jim LaVerde, man. I've always loved the Barren Cross guys, you know, Steve and Jim and all the guys, Ray and Michael. I've always loved those guys. And I met Steve first from Barren Cross when I was shopping Celestial Messenger to Enigma Records back in like '86, and always loved those guys, loved their heart, you know, loved that they got to work with John and Dino at Pachyderm and at the studio there in Los Alamos. And so I just hit Jim up, man, and Jim's like, yeah, dude, whatever you need, man, whatever you need. And so one thing after another, the Lord just kept opening doors and building the team. And I've been so amazed at the team that God just keeps opening up. I mean, even like being on the line with you and Doug Van Pelt and all the partners that kind of, you know, coming out of the shadows for 30 years, like, you know, guys like Ted Kirkpatrick and Ray Power and John Elefante and JJT and Doug, it's kind of helping me get up the curve. It's like, bro, I don't know how to do this. It's like, do you still build albums like this where you get the drums first? I had to learn about Pro Tools and building the maps in Pro Tools. And, you know, Eric was so good. He's such a great teacher as well as a great artist. But yeah, man. So I just asked those guys and asked them to pray about it. It was like, hey, man, please don't do it if you don't feel like the Lord wants you to, or, you know, you have time to. Don't feel obligated. And everybody said yes. Everybody said yes.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of almost everything you said. Sounds like you were talking for me, but Mike Portnoy is my favorite drummer. I've been a huge Dream Theater fan since the 90s. I follow, of course, when Neal went solo and took Mike with him. I was a big Transatlantic fan. I was a big Spock Spirit fan. Everything that Mike touched, everything that Neal touched, I just consider gold. So when he went solo and took Neal with him, when Neal went solo and took Mike with him, I'm like, you've got the best of both worlds here. And to Mike's favorite drummer, I don't know that when I saw Eric was when he did a video for his Great Unknown solo album. He did a video, and it was a drum cam basically. He posted on like Facebook some, and my jaw dropped. I'm like, is that Portnoy with just Eric's body superimposed? I'm like, there's no stinking way that this guy can play as good as Neal. I mean, as good as Mike Portnoy, but he was doing it. I was blown away. So now it was funny because I know that Eric has been in Neal's band for a while before when he was just on keyboards. And so I went back a couple weeks ago and was watching some of the old fan club videos, and you see Eric there with like long he looked younger, had long hair, and he's just over there. Had the beard. He had the keyboards because they had the other guy playing guitar. And I thought, holy moly, because you didn't know he's in the shadows. Now he's in the forefront. But yeah, I mean, I saw him on the Similitudes tour, and I just stood in the front of the stage and I'm just like, this guy's got it all. He's full of talent. But yeah, big fan. When I saw he was involved in your album, I just thought, there's holy moly, this is going to be a good album. So
yeah, bro. I'm telling you, Mike is extraordinary. I think there's not a drummer. I mean, you can Dave Weckl, Neil Peart. I understand all that, but pound for pound, as brilliant as Dave Weckl and Neil Peart are, pound for pound, body of works wise, there's no one that compares with Mike Portnoy.
Oh yeah.
It is extraordinary. I mean, he's done like 20 albums with Neal Morse alone, let alone Dream Theater, Winery Dogs, Sons of Apollo.
The new Transatlantic album that just came in the mail today that I haven't opened yet. New Transatlantic, 5 vinyl set.
Come on. Yeah. So, I messaged Mike Portnoy and like early on when I first started thinking about it, it's like, well, Lord, let's see. I'm gonna knock on some doors, see who opens. And I actually messaged Mike, didn't have his email or his cell phone number or nothing. But I asked him, I said, hey man, we were like this band that was very likened to Rush.
Rush, yeah.
And man, I'm going to do another album, and the stuff is going to be kind of like Dream Theater meets Rush meets King's X meets Blue Murder meets I don't know what. And if you're not doing anything, you're playing on everybody else's albums, maybe you'll play on mine. You know, I never heard back from him, but I'm not kidding you. I posted something on social media probably about a year ago that even if Neil Peart was still alive, and if Mike Portnoy knocked on my door, Tommy Aldridge, Simon Phillips, Dino Castronova, if all those guys knocked on my door, I still would rather have nobody but Eric play on any of the Trytan albums from now on. Because it's so much stuff happened. There were lightning strikes. There were fills that he did when he did the Keeper drum tracks, and I was in Chicago up here, and he was down at his studio in Tulsa. There were fills that he did where he didn't know the guitar solo compositions, but he played the exact riff. And I'm not just talking about like quarter notes, bro. I'm talking about riffs. Like he did the exact riff, descending, ascending stuff. And when I went and I heard the Keeper drum tracks when I was down there to finish up the album, I was amazed. And so there is just some cool supernatural God stuff happening there. And I found my guy. And I was really hoping that I wasn't having delusions of grandeur about how Blood of Kings turned out, because it's like when he sent me the mastered version, because we mixed it together, him at the helm. Then he sent me it mastered, and I sat and I listened to it, and I'm like, man, Lord, I hope at least a few people are as blown away by this as I am, because this is Eric's work on that album alone is just extraordinary. The keyboard and the drum work is just something so special, and the interaction between the guitar and the keys and the drums and the guitar is like something. Forgive me for jumping on your wave there, but like Eric is, I'm not quite sure there's a multi-instrumentalist on the planet at his level. And that is a huge thing, because I understand Edgar Winter, I understand Tom from Boston, Ted Kirkpatrick. There's some monsters out there. Ian Anderson from Tull. I understand all that. But this kid, this young man is extraordinary. He is extraudinary.
Yeah, it makes people like me who can only play one instrument, makes me kind of sick. But you know, but I agree. I mean, you know, I knew him as just a phenomenal guitar player in Neal Morse. That's all I knew until I saw him play drums. Yeah. And then you hear him sing, and I'm just like, you're kidding me. This guy makes me sick. Why is he doing all this stuff? He's just, I agree. So yeah, when I saw him involved, aside from laughing and saying he probably wasn't even around when the first Trytan album came out, I'm just like, I'm glad you had great experience with him though, because I don't know. I'm glad. I'm oozing about it as much as you are. I'm just like, great stuff. But it wasn't me that interviewed him on a podcast or anything. I've done interviews with Neal, but never have I ever talked or met them. Yeah, when I went to see them, they played here for the Similitudes, and Doug finagled with the manager to get me to interview Neal Morse. When I got there, I ended up interviewing Randy George because Neal wasn't around. Now, of course, I really wanted to interview Neal. Not nothing against Randy, but you know, he's my man. I just wanted to meet
the Neal Morse Band.
but it was cool to meet Randy. But you know, I thought I'd love to meet them all. It'd be nice if they all. But it was before the show, so I'm a big fan. But yeah, everything. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep being a fanboy now about let's talk about your album. So
right on.
So next point then, what do you got there? What go ahead. What else you want to say about the new album? It's great. It's great stuff. I'm of course, now that I'm back into buying vinyl, I can't wait to see it. Hopefully one day.
It's coming.
I heard it was, so I'm hoping to blare it on my big stereo in full vinyl glory. So it's great stuff. You haven't lost a lick. I mean, you're right there, and vocally and everything. So
thanks, man. It was extraordinary to do. One of the things that I can say about it is I would say probably a little over 3 years, like coming up on 4 years, really efforting, writing, composing the Blood of Kings album. You know, the songs, there were some songs that I wanted to get on there that'll be on the next Trytan album, which is about halfway written already. It's called Heart of the Dragon, will be the next Trytan album. And just writing, getting back into that musician regiment of playing a lot, you know, and I really, you know, I love, like, I'm a Dream Theater fan. Mike's my favorite drummer until
Eric came on.
Eric did Blood of Kings, you know, and they're right there. But yeah, I mean, Symphony X. I'm a music fan. You know, Andy James, Joe Satriani, Marco Sfogli, Pliny, all those guys. So I really wanted to do, you know, to build on the Trytan. I needed, you know, I want to do stuff that I can do well, and what I can do. You know, I don't want to write stuff beyond my ability or my scope. But I want to push myself too. And, you know, I love, like, the Dream Theater, Symphony X, Beyond, Between the Buried and Me. I love that prog stuff, but I also love, you know, like Journey, TNT, you know, Boston, Angelica. I love all that stuff. So Trytan's kind of been like right down the middle, you know, Dream Theater, prog, but then kind of Rush, Journey. And so I just started playing and writing, and I got about like 60 songs, fragment songs started, but then went down with Eric, and then you know, we wound up with almost 80 minutes of music. It's like 76 or 77 minutes of music or something. So it's got to be a double album, which I'm excited about, that coming out eventually. But yeah, so just writing the music, and then being a pastor for 40 years, and just really seeing what's going on in the world, you know, and you know, being in tune. You know, our ministry is coming out of Calvary Chapel and the Warehouse Church. It's just like, it's be with the people, you know, really be hands-on, be in people's lives. We're very connected with people and seeing what people are going through, and then going to a few Christian concerts over the years. I've been a little disheartened by, well, it's kind of was a double-edged sword for me. I've been blown away by Christian music more and more. People say, oh man, all that Christian stuff. It's like, dude, we got the best music. I mean, whether it's Neal Morse Band or Striper or Theocracy, or we got the best stuff, man. I don't care what anybody says, man. But despite how great the albums and the musicality and even the live performances was, I was really burdened. And I just want to be honest and faithful to the Lord. I was really burdened by what I seen on the internet and the live concerts that I went to, about the lack of real in the now ministry. Like all these great lyrics that, man, you know, Christ and the cross, and, you know, the reality of facing God in eternity without the forgiveness of sins, and bands not making a presentation and not, you know, fulfilling the Great Commission in the live setting. You know, it's like, write great songs, great lyrics, glorify the Lord, share the Lord, talk what it's all about. But then when you got, you know, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people in front of you, do it there most of all. You know, do it, you know, it's like the other wing on the bird, you know, go make a great album and then go on tour and pull some people into the kingdom. So I was really burdened by that. And I still had songs in me, you know, I still had burdens and things that I wanted to say. And I mean, writing the songs and the riffs and everything, that's the easy part. Even song concepts and, you know, the messaging of the songs, you know, being a pastor for 40 years, it's like, I know how to do that. You know what I mean? But then putting it in lyrics, I did that before I was even teaching the word of God as a pastor, writing songs. And, you know, so it just was very impulsive. The Lord prompted it and it just started to come out. And, you know, getting Eric involved was a huge impetus, because it's like, okay, we set the date. I'm going to go down there. We're going to build the Pro Tools maps. So then I had to sort of knock all the, you know, I had like, probably got it down to about 15 songs. that I knew I needed to get down to, like, 10 or 11 songs at the most. And we had to drop one song that'll be on Heart of the Dragon called Avalanche. And but then we went down there and we built the Pro Tools, and when we got like, I mean, it's like Eric's like, hey, this thing's gonna be like pretty close to 80 minutes, so I think we're good. So we stopped there and just couldn't be happier and more surprised. Like, I mean, I know the effort that I put in, but it's like when he sent me the masters, 4 sessions, years of writing, composing lyrics, working on melodies, scratching melodies, writing new melodies, 5 different melodies for a verse, what the one like the bass, mending them, blending them, coming up with the chorus harmonies, and everything else. And then when Eric sent me the masters, I was like, God, how did this happen? It's like poof, it was like magic. It's like just this flash of God, and this album was done. And working with Eric, and when I found out Eric was going to be involved not only with the drums but on the keyboards, it kind of really changed my approach, meaning I was going to leave a lot of room for Eric to get on there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we went down there, we talked about, Deep Purple and Yngwie and a lot of classic keyboard guitar interaction, Jan Hammer and Al Di Meola and some of those models, Dixie Dregs, etc. And we really didn't think about it too much. It was just, we're going along, and I'm like, at the end of Ricochet, when I was doing the guitar overdubs, I had an idea for the beginning of the outro solo. And what we do is we'd work on 2 or 3 songs during the day, and then we'd slate out the next day. So I would stay at the studio. It's like they have a full accommodations. Eric and his wife, JC. I mean, dude, it's literally like a mega studio resort. Above the studio is the lodge. It's like staying at a Hyatt Regency. I kid you not. It's so dialed in. So Eric would go home to JC and Eleanor, and I would stay there, and I'd woodshed. I'd stay up for a few hours. I'd write ahead on the stuff we were going to do today. I'd refresh on the solos, and I'd finish any compositions. I'm very much a composition player. I leave some room for spontaneity, but I'm more of a composition player. And I would write ahead, but like the outro solo for Ricochet, I knew there had to be some like whining guitar in there, like some real passionate guitar. But then I got to a point where it's like there was like this melody, and when we were recording it, I said, Eric, listen, I'm gonna play up to this point. I'm gonna lay this melody down, and then I'd love for you to come in and just play a harmony to my melody, and then take it over. And he's like, you got it. And dude, not to spiral back to Eric, when he'd pull out his drawer, he has his mixing console, Pro Tools window in front of him, but then he has a drawer where he pulls out his keyboard. And if you're working out a harmony or you're working out a riff, he'll pull his keyboard out, hit a button, and he'll be like, dude, what about this? And he'll, it's right there. And so it's like, bro, I'm gonna play to this point, and then I'd like you to play it out, and then riff your brains out. You know what I mean? And then he would spend like about the piano parts in when John Elefante sings in the breakdown in Revelation song, that beautiful piano part, if you listen close, it's like concerto piano stuff that Eric does. That was one take. Wow. He I mean, that was like just him freestyling on there. But my jaw was on the deck. Like, there was lightning strikes like every 3 minutes between him and me and stuff that he was playing. Then it's like, hey, dude, you just riff there. And then I'd go get a coffee, and he'd come back, and he'd take like maybe 20 minutes and compose a part and track it and throw it down. But it was just back and forth like that. But I've got a radio show I'm doing tomorrow. And one of the things I'm going to share is, and this is no joke, working with Eric was one of the 5 biggest thrills of my life.
Wow.
Receiving Christ, marrying my wife, having kids, having my granddaughter, and doing an album with Eric Gillette. I mean, just
Hopefully he never hears
extraordinary.
this. Hopefully he never hears this. His head's gonna get really big if he hears us ranting
I know. I
about it.
always got it. I know he's so humble. He don't even know what a genius he is. Or you would never know that he knows. But anyways, yeah. So the recording process was 4 sessions with me at EKG at Eric's studio. And then, you know, he did a lot of work. I was up here when he did the drums, all the keeper drums. And then I did all the guitar work and vocal work down there with him. And that was 4 different sessions. And then he would work on it in between, little like strings, keyboard patches and stuff like that. I would say 80% of it, we were in the room together. All the drums except the descender he did, and I was back up here. And in the middle of the session, in the middle of the album, it would be late June 2019. So I had just come back from Eric's studio at the beginning of June, where we did all the rhythm tracks for the guitar. The album really, we finished all the scratch tracks for the whole album at that point, so he could do the drums. When I came back, middle of the album, I almost severed my ring finger in my fretting hand completely off.
Oh.
I'm a vet pro motocross racer, and I had a guy land on me, and I rolled, and my clutch lever literally severed my finger off. It was just hanging on by, I had to have reconstructive surgery. Oh. And I'm like, oh no, Lord, I haven't even started really the guitar solos. And dude, I mean, you could see, I can't even bend it all the way. I had to learn how to play again all over, a lot of stuff. I literally had to learn. I still to this day do chords a different way because my finger, my ring finger won't bend all the way. So that was one big challenge that postponed it. That was the second delay. The first delay was Eric being on tour with NMB for the Great Adventure Tour. So we had to wait for him to get done in Europe and come back. That's when we did the June session. And then I severed my finger off. Then we had to wait again for me to heal up and go through therapy and then learn how to play again. And then I was back down there in March of 2020. In fact, the first week of COVID, Eric and I were in the home stretch doing all the overdubs. In fact, he even made a post, pretty way to start quarantine, doing the Trytan album. And we were together there. And then I went back down in June of 2020 last year, and we finished it. Everything except Ray Parra's vocals and John Elefante's vocals. Which, can I talk a little bit about the Revelation song?
Yeah, I mean, when I heard that song and I heard John singing, it almost brought tears to my eyes because I love his voice. Yeah. And to hear him just all of a sudden start singing, I'm just like, I love hearing him come back.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, let's talk.
Yeah, so you know, since we did, you know, I've been a worship leader and a pastor for 40 years. And I just believe that, like, the purest place for music is worshiping the Lord. The second most powerful place for music is to share the Lord. And then the third is kind of whatever, entertainment and, you know, getting your jam on, you know, whatever. So I made a decision that if I was going to keep doing Trytan albums, I was going to keep doing like a By My Spirit or a praise or worship song on every album. And that's the next album I'm going to be going down and doing with Eric is a band called Emanate. And it's going to be like a praise and worship, but like Dream Theater meets Hillsongs. Kind of like the Revelation song and By My Spirit, but a whole album, 6 covers and 6 original praise and worship songs. Because the Lord has put praise evangelism in my heart. But the Revelation song, so picking the song was not hard. The biggest challenge was because Extreme Church up here, we had like 100 songs that we revamped, like Dream Theater meets Hillsongs. You know what I mean? So it was like, all right. So I felt like Revelation song was going to be the one. And I knew that I wanted to bring in some other singers. So, you know, Ray Parra and I have been, man, we've been close for years and years and years. Just like singer buds, brothers in Christ, etc. So I had asked Ray, I said, hey, dude, you want to be on this? He goes, absolutely. So then I hadn't been in touch with John Elefante for the longest time. John and I met, was, I think, late 90. Mark Robertson, who's an old close friend of my wife and I, Mark Robertson was in the band Brighton, and they were recording their album, or maybe it was demos for John's first album, Windows of Heaven. Anyways, Mark and John were in the studio together, and they were just talking on a break, and Mark was telling him about Trytan. He was telling him about me, and he played Silent Tiger, some tracks from, they went through the tracks on Silent Tiger for him, and John's like, wow. He goes, what's this guy doing, you know? And they called me. So I pick up my phone like at my house, and it's like Mark's like, hey, Lair, John Elefante wants to talk to you. And I'm like, dude, quit messing with me, man. What are you talking about, you know? And he goes, no, I'm serious. I'm in the studio with John. He wants to talk to you. So I get on the phone with John, and he starts asking me about what I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, listen, I really want to stay in touch, you know? So I flew out there and saw Mastodon at forgot the name of it. Was it El Monte? It was in California. And then that February, John called me and he said, hey man, he goes, I've been thinking about you. He goes, can you fly out next month? I want to do an album with you. And I'm like, bro, I said, I don't even need to pray about it, but I can't do it. He goes, okay, man. I said, dude, my mom just started treatment for cancer. And where my wife and I were at the time, it's like, I know I can't do it. My mom just started treatment. My mom's really sick. And he goes, dude, I totally understand. And actually, Michael Lee from Barren Cross was going to be doing that session, but it canceled. And so John called me, says, man, dude, come on out. I want to do like a Rush meets Supertramp album with you. I'm like, dude, I can't do it, man. And so we stayed in touch. They came and did Cornerstone here in Illinois, and I saw them at Cornerstone. And John and I kind of stayed in touch over the years. In fact, in August that year, my mom started her oncology, and she took a turn for the worse. And I had called, this was before cell phones and stuff. I went to the payphone in the hospital, and I called every Christian in my phone book. And I called John, and they were actually recording Petra, Unseen Power. And they put John on the phone for me, say, hey, listen, man, it's Lary Dean. I want to see if I can talk to John, ask him to pray for my mom. They put him on the phone. And I'm like, hey, John, I don't have a bunch of time, but would you pray for my mom? If she doesn't get a miracle, man, she's going to be with the Lord in a matter of days. And he goes, hey, listen, I got all the guys from Petra in here. We're going to pray for her right now. So they prayed for my mom. And that was about the last time we spoke in 91. I did send him a message when his mom passed away about, I want to say 4 years ago or so. And then when Eric and I were recording Blood of Kings, we got to the verse after the extra bridge, the big bridge. And I said, bro, I'm thinking about asking John Elefante to sing the main, like to be the main voice in this. And I said, why don't you just play some piano? Like, so after the big bridge, let's just take the band out. Because originally the drums and everything was going through that last verse. And I said, I hear you playing some piano on there with just John's amazing voice just on top of that piano part, you know? And he's like, cool, man. So Eric pulls out his drawer and he laid that piano part down one take, just one take. Unbelievable. And then I hit John up and I think I hit John up before that. And I said, hey, John, it's been a long time. I'm doing another Trytan album. And I would love for you. I said, if you remember, I passed on doing an album with you in 91, but I'm doing another album. So I wonder if I might get a rain check, you know, if you could sing on this album. And again, you know, he said, send me the track, man. And so Eric and I built the thing. I sang all of our parts on there that we sent out to Ray and John. And I actually did a video in my studio here. I did a video with the track that Eric sent me playing through the system. And I literally said, okay, Lary Dean, first verse. And I sang the part. Then I said, John Elefante, second verse. And I sang the part. Then I said, John and Larry together. And I sang the part. And then I said, okay, Ray Parra, this part. And I sang the part. And then I said, okay, Eric Gillette, this part. And I sang the part. And then when it went to I said, everybody on the second chorus. And I said, in the big bridge, Lary Dean first, I sang the part. And I'm not like narrating,
yeah,
like coaching the vocals during, like on this video that I did for him. And I said, okay, John Elefante, second part, I sang the part. Then Ray Parra, third part, and I sang the part. Then Eric Gillette, last part. Then, and I said, then just John Elefante. And then the piano part comes in. And man, dude, when I got John's parts sent back, so it was I did my parts except the high harmonies. Then we sent it down to John, and then John did his parts and sent them back. And John and I just had a gas, man. Him and I have been in touch like since then, like on the phone. He'll call me for prayer, and we'll talk about stuff. And that's just been so cool. A friendship was really born doing Revelation Song with John. We've been in touch, and we're talking about the vocal parts. I'm like, I'm down here in my office with John on speakerphone, and he's like, what do you think about this, man? And he'll sing a part. And I'm like, dude, you could sing your parts every other word in a different language, and I'm good with it, man. Whatever you want to do, brother. And he is laughing, but I'm like, oh, seriously, dude, that I'm on the ground. And so, working with him on that and just talking with him and praying with him the way we have been for the past years has been awesome. And when John sent his parts back, because he sent them to me and Eric, I played them for my wife, and my wife Rhonda's like, man, he's just in worship. I mean, he's just gone in worship. You could just feel the lift, and that's what we wanted to do with this song. And then we got Ray's parts back, and then Eric, he was the last one to put his vocal parts down after, because being the genius that he is, he wanted to hear what everybody else came up with, and round it off. And my goodness, man, the kid is such a unicorn. I call him a kid. I say that in respect, like, because I'm old enough to be his grandpa practically. You know what I mean? I have a son as old as Eric, but he just crushed it. Eric and John at the end, the way they just interact at the end. And all the voices, and then there was a point when John and I were working on it. He goes, man, he goes, dude, our voices are going to sound good together. I'm like, my favorite singer in the whole wide world just told me our voices are going to sound good together. I am floored, man. It was so cool, bud. But so we just really wanted to, I think, through the years that we've all had with COVID and all the riots and everything that's going on, we just wanted a song to be so majestic, just so that people could just enter in, to just be reminded about how awesome and amazing our God is. And we sure hope that Revelation Song does that for people.
Wow. Yeah. I remember I had just been sent the digital tracks, I guess, I don't know, couple weeks before the album came out. But even a friend of mine, I won't mention any names, but a friend of mine in this industry, he said, yeah, have you heard it? And I said, yeah, it's a great album. At that point, I don't think I had finished all the way. He said, and this is a guy that listens to heavy metal, thrash, everything, and thrash and everything. He's like, even the worship song at the end is mind blowing. And I'm like, I hadn't got there yet. So then when I did get it, and I don't think I even realized that they were guests at first until I heard it. And when you hear John's voice, it's just so distinctive. And like I said, it just sent shivers in my body. And I think the other thing is, of course, all of his work in the past with all the bands, especially with the Macedon stuff and all that, is great. Now, in the past, like what year maybe, they reissued on vinyl his solo album and the Mastodon 3 album, which is sort of like a solo album. So John's been in the brain in the past year because I've been revisiting those albums. I thought his solo album, when it came out a couple years ago, was one of his best. But then get it on vinyl and listen to it over and over. So I just fell in love with him all over again. And so then when I'm listening to you sing and all of a sudden he breaks in, I'm just like, I'm like that. I'm done. Now, Ray, his last band that he was in was way different than anything he had done before. So I kind of appreciate what he did with Sacred Warrior. He had a beautiful voice. Then he does this band, which is a cool band, but it doesn't sound like him because of the way he's singing it. It's almost like all drop D sounding. So then to hear him on this song, he was back. I'm like, that's the voice I'm used to.
Yeah,
it was.
Bro, you talk about a godstorm, because it's like, you know, John, Eric, and me, we're like power tenors, you know. But then Eric, Ray comes in there and he's got that Dio, you know, that. I mean, Ray's got such a signature voice, but it's you know, they kind of talk to me. They say like I sound like Rick Emmett or Geddy Lee, whatever. And no question, Ray sounds like Dio. You know what I mean? Even better in my opinion. But you know, nothing against Dio, or I don't want to get in trouble with Dio fans. But you know, but he comes in there and like his voice just thunders in, you know, and it's such a beautiful compliment. And you know, to me, bro, no one can. You know, no one can take credit for it. It's just like I asked some guys that I loved and respect and that I knew and believed in. You know, that's kind of my mantra. It's like, you know, great artists are one thing, but I really want to work with guys that have great hearts and hearts for the Lord. You know, that you know, that are just my tribe. You know, and Eric and John and Ray and Jim, man, they're my tribe. And I hate to use the word magic, but the magic that happened, and none of us were in the same room when we did our stuff either. Eric and I were when we did some of this stuff, but most of that was just flown in. You know, John in his studio, Ray in his, and so cool.
Yeah, and speaking of Ray again, I feel bad that I totally forgot the song, but was it like I think last year, the Sacred Warrior guys and both singers and a bunch of people got together and did that long distance like hymn recording.
Right.
And Ray was there, and I just fell in love with his voice again. But that was just such a powerful hymn that they did, and to hear his voice again, because like I said, the other band that he did sounded good, but it sounded different, and I was just so happy to hear that familiar sound again. And so and then to hear him on your album, I was just like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was such a blessing, man, because I've known, you know, Ray, because Ray and I are both here from Illinois.
I was about to say, I kind of forgot that you all were local there and everything. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you all know each other. So,
yeah.
Band-wise.
Yeah, so, I mean, Ray was from, like, I think Aurora, West Chicago area. And then so there's four river towns around Chicago. Up north is Elgin. Then there's Aurora, you know, Wayne's World Party down, excellent. And then there's Joliet and there's Kankakee. So those are the four river towns that surround Chicago. I'm in Joliet, and Ray and all the Sacred Warrior guys are up around the Aurora area. So we're like 30 minutes from each other, you know. So I've known those guys for years. We all played shows at the warehouse, and they had Bible studies. We had Bible studies, and Ray and Rick were doing a TV show in Wheaton a while back that when I was doing Dean, when I had Chris Mosier and Scotty, and I was going to do a Dean album, we performed live on Ray and Rick's TV show. They had like a Christian TV show. It was really, really cool, man. They had a live band. Like, it was kind of like David Letterman, but with Ray and Rick,
right?
From Sacred Warrior. Really, really cool. And yeah, so I stayed in touch with all those guys. Bruce Swift is right here. Yeah, all the Sacred Warrior guys are right here from Illinois. And then Rex Carroll is up in Waukegan. I think he's still in Waukegan, right here, Chicagoland area. So
just put a new album out. I haven't heard it yet, but you mentioned them earlier, and I saw that they just released an album, and I want to get that. But
yeah, for sure.
I haven't heard it yet to see what it was all about. So
yeah, man.
I picked up their first album on vinyl actually a couple months ago because I found it online. I'm like, I'm going to get that. So I got the first.
Right on. Well, it's amazing how
both.
vinyl is going crazy, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I know. I jumped on that train a couple years ago, and unfortunately, it's breaking the pocketbook. But I'm like all into it now. So
that's cool. That's our granddaughter. She's 13. Her mom and dad got her a record album, and so she's actually on. She's the little girl on the cover, the reissue of Celestial Messenger.
Oh, okay.
That's my granddaughter. Yep.
I think I remember reading something about that on your page. You don't look the same though. What happened to you? You know, that's not you, is it?
It was me.
It was you.
It was me, bro.
Mm.
So that's cool, man.
All right. Well, I have kept you for a long time. I am fine if you want to talk more, but I don't want to keep you all day. So if you have any more bullet points you want to cover, I mean, I'm fine with it. So I just feel like
I'm so humbled and glad and thankful, because the reviews, all the reports, man, people are loving this album, and I'm so thankful. And Eric Gillette is on this album, John Elefante is on this album, Ray Parra is on this album, Jim LaVerde is on this album. So it's kind of like, I'm not surprised at all, but artists always kind of brace themselves for the criticism and so forth. And I'm just so glad and thankful at the response to the album. Not just the reviews and the critics, if you will, but the fan response has been, bro, it's been overwhelming. And, I knew one of my jobs was, when I understood how gifted and creative and brilliant Eric was, I knew part of my job was for this album to be Eric unleashed. I needed to unleash as much as Eric as I could. And, we had a meeting about the drums, and I just kind of gave him like maybe 3 or 4 broad points about like certain song parts. Hey man, I think this would be really cool. And Eric knows. I said, dude, you do whatever you want to do. It's kind of like John. I don't care if you sing it in another language, but we had a conference, like, cause it was a few days before he went in and recorded all the keeper drums. And we just met up and spent like a half hour going through each song in certain parts. And it was more of a broad strokes, like, bro, I love Mike's kick work. I love his tom work. I love Chris Pat work. The sounds are amazing. His drum sounds are just incredible. But getting with him on just the production end of things, and picking the songs and figuring out which songs were going to be what. The response to all the hard work that I know we put in has been such a blessing. And about the next thing I'm really looking forward to hearing about is the messaging. Like, what are you getting from the album? What are these songs saying to you? Because that to me, obviously when you got a message and you want to tell a story, you want the music to do that job. And I feel like, wow, we did our job. The music became this landscape for these stories to be told, or these messages to be expressed. And I'm curious to hear, I hear a lot of great positive comments about the musicality and, the guitar work and the keyboard work and the drums and everything else. But I'm really curious to hear what people's response is to the messaging. And that's what I'm most excited about. The 2 things that we wanted to do was to really challenge people who don't know Christ, and to really present Christ, the Lord, in a head snapping, spine shivering, breathtaking way. Like the Descender. I mean, that's my main goal with that song is, man, he's coming back. He's going to rip the sky open. He's going to come back, and I feel like that song, the music, the drums, the keyboards, the intro that we built, man, I hope it sends a shiver down people's spine, and it will awaken people who don't know the Lord to how much he's done for them and what the cross really means. And that, man, the clock is running. I hope that people can get a sense of urgency about being ready for eternity from this album. And then the other wing on the bird is, I hope it will challenge Christians to share Christ with an all means necessary kind of way. You know, A Million Hearts. Actually, Yesterday and A Million Hearts are songs that I wrote almost 30 years ago. They were actually going to be on the Dean album. And I didn't finish them then, but I started them then and then finished them, you know, when Eric and I started the album. But it's really A Million Hearts, you know, like, you know, look around you. They're all around you, people that need to hear about Christ's love, you know, and people want to have this, you know, they want to go to Bible college or they want to go to the 1040 window. And it's like, man, you just need to sometimes walk across the street or sometimes walk across the room to find someone who needs to hear about the Lord. And as I met with one of my best buds, Dr. Jim Nabsdek. He's a metal fan. He's a doctor, but he's a metal fan. And we just met and prayed together. And when I was on my way back, I was listening to Ricochet. And the last line in Ricochet says, that's not the reason we will cry. And the reason that we will cry when we get to be with the Lord is that we'll see the lack of urgency that so many is so predominant in our lives. Like, we're going to know, oh my gosh, all the people that we could have shared the Lord with that we didn't, you know, and that's the reason the Lord's going to have to dry our tears, because we're going to realize, oh my gosh, look at all the time we wasted and the people we could have reached out to that weren't in Christ, you know, because like Paul said, how will they know unless we are sent? Well, we are sent, but we got to go. So anyways, that's the two things that I wanted to say about the messaging on the album, is to really impact the hearts of those who have not yet received Christ, and to realize a love so fierce, so amazing, that God would give us his son to come to earth and to die on the cross, to be beaten and ripped and torn for us. And that love is still extended to this day to every lost soul, and for the church to wake up to be about their primary purpose, which is sharing Christ with the lost and dying world. So Jeff, thank you for letting me share that, man. And I appreciate you being faithful to do all these interviews all day long, man. Thanks are you going to be able to clock out now, or you got another one you got to go to?
Well, no, I'm done with the interviews. I'm going to have a long time of editing everything. So
okay.
That's okay. This is the fun part. So yeah, it's funny. I mean, with the messaging thing, you know, right? I think right now, and this is just me speculating, but I think right now people are just probably blown away by just the initial Trytan's back. It's a phenomenal album. I think in time, the messaging is probably going to come. You'll start hearing that, because people right now are being blown away just by the music. I mean, it's brand new still. People are still hearing it, but I think ultimately they're going to start absorbing what's being said, and you'll start hearing that. So, and it's funny you mentioned the thing about people going here and going there, but not across the street. You've already mentioned Ted Kirkpatrick a couple times, and the thing is just funny because they have that song "Crawl to China." Is God asking you to crawl to China or just across the street?
Right.
It just, what you said, it took me back to that, because yeah, most people want to do big works rather than thinking about the little works for God. So
right.
It's
right.
Or just living their lives and being there for the person that's there, rather than thinking, I want to go on a mission trip and reach the people that I'm never going to see again type thing. So yeah, I get it. I feel it. Great stuff. So
yeah, man. Thank you, bro. Hey, listen, before I just wanted to mention too, you know, about boonsoverstock.com. That's where people can get the Blood of Kings, as well as the first album that's been reissued with a new cover and bonus tracks on there.
Cover and bonus tracks, baby.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, baby. And then Silent Tiger is on vinyl still, and on Boone's Overstock as well. So all three titles are available, and then the digital market should be like a month. It'll be out like on, you know, Spotify and Apple Music, and I'm going to be doing the digital market stuff in about a month.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Great stuff. Glad to have you back. We're sorry.
Thanks, man.
Sorry it took you 30 years to make us wait 30 years for this, but you know.
You won't have to wait that long for the next one.
Yeah, don't be all wrapped up in it and feel like you got to go wait another 30 years. So
I won't, bro. I won't. I promise. Thank you so much, bro. Lord bless you, man.
Same to you. Thanks so much. And we will talk with you later.
All right, buds.